What's up guys, Vulkan here, and today we are diving into the Borderlands meets Diablo twin stick shooter Space Punk. So I want to give a shout out to the teams at Flying Wild Hog and Jagex for the early access key. So let's go ahead and break down this new game. How does it fare even in early access? Well, to start, this early access game is truly that. This game is pretty bare bones and it offers an early look at the foundation along with some teasers to other features like the premium store and talent trees. So if you're someone who's expecting a game with tons of content at this point in time, I would definitely wait until they're closer to launch. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about what is available for us to play right now, today in Space Punks. So when you first begin, there's going to be 4 heroes to choose from: Bob, Duke, Finn, and Eris. And each one of these have their own stats, their own skills, passive bonuses. Now Bob and Eris are your DPS style characters. They can dish out a ton of damage and they can lock down enemies with their skills. Bob is like this alien mantis grasshopper thing. He can summon a turret that dishes out a pretty decent amount of damage and will actually draw aggro as well, which definitely comes in handy when you're soloing. And his other skill will toss a barrage of landmines towards enemies, and then his ultimate or team aura will summon an armed drone. Now Eris is half human, and then the other half of her looks like the stuff from that movie like Splinter or like Venom, for instance. And her skills are Impale and Spinal Blades. Now Impale will deal damage and it'll root enemies in place, so this is great for crowd control. And then her Spinal Blades is a sort of like summon, so she has these tentacles that grow out of her back and then they will attack enemies who get too close. And then her ultimate will send out nanobots to attack enemies as well. Then we have Finn and Duke. These are more of your like tank-like characters. They have abilities that protect them or draw aggro. So Duke is basically Handsome Jack, and his skills are Boom and Dukeness Overload. So Boom is going to launch a grenade for big AoE damage, and then Dukeness will summon a decoy that's going to aggro enemies. And then his ultimate looks like it increases the damage of everyone on your team. And then Finn is basically Pumbaa, and his skills are pretty straightforward. He can pull all of the enemies towards him to easily group them up, and his other skill will fire a barrage of rockets at an area, and then his ultimate will make him invincible for a short period of time. So as you can see, each hero has a DPS skill and then something that helps define them into either a tank, protector, or a DPS class. So when you first start the game, you're asked to choose a hero to start with. Now make sure you take this seriously because you will not be able to choose another hero until you build up enough currency to unlock one. Now I chose Eris at first. I like the sound of her Impale and her Spine Blade skills, but it took me till about level 5 to gather up enough diamonds to unlock another hero, which I chose Bob. That was a good time. And once you choose your hero, you're tossed into the Devil's Gambit, which is a space station looking hub that has everything you need, right? It has crafting, talent trees, the vault, premium store, gear store, quest givers, and this is where you're going to gear up all of your characters and take on new missions. So if you're expecting like an open world that you're going to venture through and explore, you're going to be disappointed. That's exactly not what this is. But I'm glad they decided to give us an actual hub to move around and launch missions from, rather than just sending us back to a lobby with a bunch of menus like some other twin stick shooters. So once you're geared up and ready to head out, you can go to the relay and pick a mission. And this is going to simply try to matchmake you with another team, or you can skip all that and play solo. But once you're in an actual game, this is where Space Punks really shines. The combat and the movement is incredibly responsive, the controls are tight, melee attacks feel good, and shooting is satisfying. And even though the enemy variety is basically non-existent, since you're going to see pretty much the exact same enemies each and every time, and the maps are pretty similar as well, the combat is what kept me playing. It reminds me of when Destiny 1 first released. There wasn't a ton of content in that game, and people always brought up how there wasn't really anything to do, but people kept playing because it was so much fun just to shoot stuff. And this is exactly how I feel about Space Punks. The game itself right now is very foundational. The enemies are boring, the maps are repetitive, but the fulfillment I got from using my skills, swinging my swords, and shooting my minigun was enough to push me through the campaign. And that's a big kudos to a pair of studios who aren't really known for their gunplay, so bravo to them, it's fairly impressive. So let's talk about the other half of the gameplay loop, and that's rewards. So at the end of each mission, you're going to get some gear, but you can also find some out in your missions. You're going to see a whole bunch of chests out in the world. Most of them will have gold and health and shield globes, but occasionally you'll see a piece of gear drop that you can redeem once you finish the map. It just shows up on the left-hand side and says shield, or melee weapon, or ranged weapon. Now these haven't been too plentiful quite yet, which has me questioning the whole Diablo-like comparison, but considering that we're still in the lower levels of the game and the fact that Space Punks is still in early access, I'm hoping we get to see more gear drop at later levels. And the gear itself is pretty interesting. So each hero does have 6 item slots that you can equip gear into. Now, the 6th slot is unavailable at the moment. It is a work in progress. Now, on top of that, each item can have up to 12 mods that will enhance its effectiveness. Now, however, you can only choose one of these to be active at one time. So for instance, I have a pair of swords and they have 3 mods. One that reduces my cooldowns, one that increases my crit chance, and one that increases my overall damage. Now, I can pick one of these to be active at a time, and I can only swap these back in the hub. Now, this does give some flexibility to my characters in prepping for a mission. So if I know I'm going to need to use my skills all the time because I'm a tank character or I need to increase my DPS, then the cooldown reduction one makes the most sense. While the overall damage one is better if I'm going to be a nuke build and I want to have that kind of constant higher damage output. And all of these pieces of gear are shared among all of your heroes, so you can freely swap between them at your vault, and no gear is specific that I've found quite yet. So far, I have seen common, rare, which is green, kind of interesting, and blue, which is epic in terms of rarity. Now, there's also crafting in the game. I haven't found any blueprints to make quite yet, so I can't speak too much to that, but overall, it does look pretty standard. And at the core of the whole gameplay loop is Space Punk's Battle Pass style progression system, and all of this is earned in-game with something called fame. So as you complete missions, you earn fame, which progresses your bar, and once you hit certain milestones, new missions will open up, you'll earn new gear, and unlock more game features like vendors and contracts. So I'm a big fan of systems like this. It gives a clear path of how to progress or how to unlock certain things. I never have to question when I get to unlock crafting or a certain item type or a new mission opens up. It tells me right there and I can work towards it, and it makes it very, very predictive, which is fantastic. And then you have 2 things that run alongside this. You have tasks and contracts, and these contribute towards your total fame by giving you side objectives to complete while out on missions. Things like kill 50 shredders or get 3 crafting materials from reward chests. So the last thing I want to touch on are skill trees and talent trees. So heroes are going to unlock skills over time, and these skills will continue to evolve and become more powerful as you level up. So for instance, Bob's turret starts off as a standard turret. You throw it, it sits there, and it shoots things. But as you level up, it's going to evolve into a turret that follows you around. It grows legs and shoots enemies and watches your back, which is a neat little addition, kind of keep things fresh so you aren't stuck with the same old skill for the next 60 levels. But when it comes to talent trees, each hero has access to the same 3 trees, but they're not shared, so you can spec out each one individually. These trees are separated into Soldier, Scavenger, and Survivor. So Soldier is all about melee and range damage and critical chance. Scavenger specializes in range damage and utility, and Survivor gives bonuses to survivability and increasing health and shields. And each tree is broken into minor and major nodes. The minor nodes will give you small bonuses to stats, things like increasing your range damage or your maximum health. And the major nodes will give passive bonuses like a stacking buff that increases range damage whenever you kill an enemy, or increasing your healing received whenever you take damage. And I'm really interested to see how these are going to evolve as we get closer to launch, because so much of this is blank with the message work in progress. Now, I like the direction that they're moving with this, and while I would have liked to see a little bit more individuality for each hero on the trees, I can already see how each tree is going to be utilized and what hero will specialize in which one. So overall, guys, from an early access standpoint, I think Space Punks is in a really good spot. There have been some issues with server disconnects, and these have been kind of few and far between for me personally, though I know some other creators have been really struggling with them. The combat, the movement, fame system, and gearing all seems to be a nice mix for casual players who just want to sit back and kill some bad guys. But for those looking for a hardcore game to sink tons of time into, I would say let's wait and keep an eye on this one, because right now there isn't enough content to justify the pre-order in my opinion. Space Punks is definitely staying on my list as a solid early access game with huge potential, but we'll have to see what decisions are made and how much content gets added to this one by the time they hit launch. Space Punks is exclusively on the Epic Games Store and is currently on sale for pre-order for $30 US. So guys, let me know in the comments section below whether or not this was surprising. Did it meet your expectations? Is it under your expectations? Let me know, but as always, thank you so much for the support. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.